you want to know what my favorite anabolic steroid was of all time while I was competing and the worst, you're going to want to stay tuned and listen to this.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
RX Television, RXMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, your weekly 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Bodybuilding, non-bodybuilding, whatever is on your mind, this is your forum to ask Dave whatever it is that you have swirling around in that mind of yours, as we are a week away from the Arnold Classic. Next week, we will do a preview show, an Iron Debate previewing the 2026 Arnold Classic. Dave, myself, Chris Aceto will be there all weekend. We will provide wall-to-wall coverage like we always do. We'll get the interviews with some of the top athletes that are going to be there. Wrap-ups with some of the biggest names. You never know who we're going to bump into. Last year, we had a wrap-up with Phil Heath. This year, who knows? Derek Lunsford should be there in a non-competitive role, so we may grab him as well. Reminder, tomorrow on the channel, the Derek Lunsford interview will drop. We interviewed him last week. A real rare insight into the last year that it's been. It's been a tumultuous year, to say the least, but it's also been one of the most triumphant years, not only for him, but for any bodybuilder, having won the Olympia, the Arnold Classic, and the Pittsburgh Pro in the backdrop of some tough family times, losing his grandmother before the Arnold Classic. So, and we get his thoughts on his advice for bodybuilders today, financial advice, what he prepared, what he's done for himself, for his family, with his gym and everything. So it's a real introspective look into Derek Lunsford, two-time Mr. Olympia, and it's going to drop tomorrow on the channel tomorrow. So we go into the questions, the first two questions on the show from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Have you utilized SGLT2 inhibitors for health optimization, say cardiac and renal protection while on cycle? Your thoughts on using them in the context of PED use?
Yeah, this category of drugs are what they do is they make the kidney tubules permeable to releasing glucose. So in other words, instead of reabsorbing glucose, you pee them out, you pee it out. Now, normally you don't pee glucose, right? I mean, if you have glucose in your urine, normally that would imply that you have super high blood sugars and that it's trickling over and spilling over into your urine, in which case that's not good. But in this instance, it's actually opening up the sodium glucose channel, and it's allowing these molecules to pass through into the urine. Obviously, if you're not absorbing the glucose, okay, you're not releasing the insulin and you're not storing the stuff as fat. So they use it for blood sugar control. They use it for weight loss, in essence. I don't personally like the mechanism and the way it works. I think it's like it just doesn't sound like a good thing, like to open these channels up, because God knows what else leaks out as well. If a big glucose molecule can get through that pore, I'm sure other stuff trickles out too. How about we just cut back your carb intake a little bit? Or if you really lack self-control, take a GLP-1 agonist, like Ozempic or Mounjaro, RETATRUTIDE, and just curb your appetite a little bit. I don't know why people feel that we have this, we should be able to eat as much as we want and just purge it out of our body, because that's really what it is. It's really like you might as well just throw it up, right? I mean, it's the same thought process. Allow the person to eat like a glutton, and then just take some drug that allows you to leak the calories out and you don't absorb it. That's just fostering bad habits in my mind, and it's not really solving the problem, which is that the person doesn't know how to eat right. So I'm not in favor of those.
Second question, again, these first two from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. I watch your videos on the show, and I'm a user of your app. So because you're always honest, that's why I wanted to ask. With your fast metabolism, you actually use the keto diet and rotational eating plan when you're preparing for competitions, or if you just reduce your carb intake to 60 to 80 grams without eliminating them.
Back when I was competing, I found that I looked my best when this. I kind of figured out like what worked best the last 5 years of my career. I liked to eat low carbs, and I probably, with my body, I was in ketosis. So I would rather eat a lot more protein and fat, for a few days in a row. So I would eat like burgers. I would go to the diner and I'd get these big chopped sirloin steaks. They call them. It's really a big hamburger. And I would have that with like a big salad, olive oil on it, some just green vegetables. I'd have that for dinner. Maybe sometimes I'd have some beans or something like that, low carb like sources of, there would be starches, a little bit of starch in them, but not much in the way of carbs. And I just did really well in that. And then I would give myself a cheat meal, like once a day toward the end. In the beginning, it was like once every couple days. But then like my metabolism got so fast that I would eat basically no carbs the whole day. And then I would have like burger and fries, like for one meal, at McDonald's. And so I was I think I was still in ketosis because my brain felt really good when I wasn't eating the McDonald's meal. So I have to believe that one meal wasn't taking me out of ketosis. Now, the average person would certainly be taken out of ketosis with a burger and fries because their metabolism isn't that fast. But I think I would eat it usually like earlier in the day, and then I would train after that. So I probably depleted all the carbs out. So my brain just stayed in ketosis. Obviously, like I said, for the average person, that wouldn't work, but I just looked good on that. My body looked better on higher fat and, high protein. And when I ate a ton of carbs, I just got bloated. I got really bloated and, my body just didn't look as sharp. So I kind of used the carbing up process just for the very end. And then, like I said, if I needed once a week, I would have a cheat meal where I'd usually go for sushi. And, you think sushi is a clean cheat meal, but if you ever have a lot of rolls, those rolls have a lot of carbs in them, and they put sugar inside the rice. A lot of people don't know that. Sushi rice is not just rice. It's sugar and rice, and usually a little vinegar or wine or some kind of wine vinegar mixed in there as well. That's why it has a really kind of interesting taste to it. And I think that's what makes it so addicting too. And it helps the rice stick together as well. So, I just did better on that. Now there are people that actually need more carbs, and I work with people that I give a lot of carbs to, and they're fine on it. Then there's other people that if they look at a carb, they don't lose weight. So you have to kind of go by the person's metabolism. I also wanted, by the way, these two questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. It's an app you can download from your iTunes store, from your Android store, depending on what phone you have. You get me as a coach in your back pocket. Basically, it's $29 a month. You get access to all my writings, all my videos I've done in a very coherent way. It's laid out in the app. You access all my drug cycles, men, women, off season, pre-contest, beginners, advanced, all my diets, there's keto diets there, the cyclical keto diets there, all my detoxification protocols, and everything that I've ever written is pretty much in this app. Plus, we're constantly updating it with new stuff, new workouts, new question answers that are going on in an open forum. So every app member can ask me a question and I give them an answer, and everyone sees the questions and answers. And I do a video exclusively for the app members every single week as well. It's like another Ask Dave that only the app members have access to. So it's a great resource if you want to keep learning and becoming a great coach. It's like I said, I do it because you guys support it, and I've been doing it for the last 5 years. And I want to just thank you for supporting the app because I know it's a great resource for people. I wanted to throw one more thing in before we get to the show formally. My son asked me this morning, he goes, do you know Ronnie Coleman? I said, of course I know Ronnie Coleman. He goes, how do you know Ronnie? Well, I used to work with him at Metrex, and we were friends, and we traveled together and stuff. He's like, you should really interview him. My son's 10 years old. I don't even know how he knows who Ronnie Coleman is, to be honest with you. He's like, you need to interview him. You haven't interviewed him, have you? I said, well, I've interviewed him a lot in the past. I haven't interviewed him recently. He's like, I think you should get him on the show. So I guess, hey, Logan says I got to get Ronnie Coleman. I got to get Ronnie Coleman. So.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, under what context did he come across Ronnie Coleman? Did he like through TikTok
Said,
videos?
who's the best bodybuilder of all time? And he asked me, who do I thought? No, first he asked me, who do I thought was the worst bodybuilder of all time? And I said, well, I don't really rank people on the worst. I only rank people on the best. He said, well, who's the best? I said, Ronnie Coleman. He's like, he goes, do you know him? And then I said, yeah. He goes, you should get him on the show. I think, like he's like he's like now like my talent scout, like fielding guests for the show.
There you go.
He's looking for a job already,
All right,
so,
we got it. Logan Palumbo is going to be the what's the term? The booker, the guest booker.
I said, listen, I got Derek Lunsford. Isn't he just as good? He's like, well, has he won as many Olympias? I said, no. He's like, well, then you better get Ronnie. I said, all right.
Oh my God. All right. So the mission understood. We're going to be in Columbus, Ohio, and the mission is going to be that Dave Palumbo is going to interview Ronnie Coleman in person, and that we will satisfy that checklist item. All right. Before we go to the rest of the questions, our friends at Titan Medical Center, happy birthday to John from Titan Medical Center.
Yes.
And because it is his birthday week, they are running a BLOODWORK special just for this week, dedicated to his birthday. And then also special RETATRUTIDE pricing, the lowest they have ever had at Titan Medical.
I love John and Sharice. We have a very good relationship. We've been working together for over 10 years now. And interestingly, John's birthday is on the same day as my mom's birthday was, which is this past Monday, which was February 23rd. So that's, we have that in common now. So we have a lot in common. And so John wanted to do something special for his birthday, just like we had that special sale on my birthday. And the RETATRUTIDE is the #1 selling GLP-1, drug on the market, bar none, worldwide. It's 3 drugs in one. And it's expensive, John. I said, unless you have a real legitimate need for it and you have a prescription where your insurance is covering it, which most people do not, especially bodybuilders, it's going to cost you quite a bit of money if you go to the regular doctor. But if you go to Titan Medical Center, they compound this drug, and the price is significantly lower, and they're holding this special sale for John's birthday. So I am kind of shocked, Sid, to be honest with you, how many people take RETATRUTIDE. It's like everyone takes it now. Like when I have people come to me and hire me for coaching, I'm like, I always have people give me a list of what supplements they take and what drugs they're on and stuff like that. And it's like almost every single person is taking RETATRUTIDE, or they want to take RETATRUTIDE, or they're trying to find RETATRUTIDE. If you're on it, if you're looking for it, contact our friends at TitanMedicalCenter.com. They're going to take care of you. Mention Dave Palumbo, RXMuscle, and John's birthday, and you're going to get a very special price on it. If you're already an existing customer of theirs and you want to get on it, or you want to renew your script, this is the time to do it, because they got a great price going.
So again, visit TitanMedicalCenter.com, mention Dave or RXMuscle. We go to the rest of our questions from our YouTube community page. If you go to our YouTube channel and click on the posts tab, that's where we're going to be fielding questions primarily going forward. With regards to clen, if you're taking it multiple times during a day, do you ingest it on an empty stomach before or after eating? And then I guess the second part of this question, is there ever a case to take clen at the beginning of a prep?
Yeah, I mean, you could take clenbuterol on an empty stomach or with food. It doesn't matter. Obviously, if you take it on an empty stomach, it's going to start working faster. So a lot of people will do that. There's no negative to taking it on an empty stomach. Like certain stuff you got to take with food. You don't need to do clen with food. So probably, on an empty stomach is fine. But if you forget to take it and it's time to take your next dosage, because you should always separate the doses by 20 microgram dosages. Never take like 40 at a time. Always separate, 20, depending on how many you're doing. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you have food in your stomach or not. If you have food in your stomach, it's going to take you a little longer for the stuff to kick in, because it's dealing with your body digesting the food as well. Now, if you're taking T3 or any kind of thyroid drug, that's usually always done first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. If you're taking 2 doses of it and you're going to take one before bed, that's fine. But try to do them on empty stomachs. They seem to absorb better without food.
What is your preferred cooking method when it comes to potatoes and rice? So I guess when you were coming up as a bodybuilder, and now,
right,
what you preach to your clients.
All right. But I am about ease of use. That means what's the quickest way to cook it and the quickest way to clean up, and it has to be integratable. Both the answer to both of those questions. So for rice, I buy minute rice. And you know what's great about minute rice is that they have all different types nowadays. So that it used to just be white rice. Now they have basmati rice. They have jasmine rice. They have all these different variations. I preferentially like basmati rice. So I've been getting the basmati minute rice. I throw it into a little ceramic bowl. I add a little bit of sea salt. I put a little bit of mac oil in there so it doesn't stick together. I pour the water in there, fill it up like with whatever they recommend, 2 cups or something like that. I put the bags, they're like the boil bags, and I put it in the microwave for 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, I have perfectly made rice, because what happens, even if you put too much water in there, you pull the bag out and the water drains out, and then you pour out the extra water and you open the bag up, and the rice tastes perfect. There's nothing. It took 10 minutes. I didn't have to do anything. It sat in the microwave while I was preparing the rest of my food, or I was in the bathroom or whatever. And I have perfect rice. And I could, like I said, I could do jasmine, I could do basmati, I could do white rice, I could do brown rice. They have every different type. For potatoes, I usually don't make them at home because they're a pain in the ass, because you have to let them cook. Because the only way I really like a baked potato is if it's baked in the oven, and that takes time. And I don't like to wait. Okay. Now there's other ways you can do it. Like if you want to cube the potato and you cut it up, and you can do this with a sweet potato too. You can put it into a bowl, like a ceramic bowl with a little bit of water at the bottom. And if you want to put some sea salt on it or whatever, and you put it in the microwave, you can cook it that way. It doesn't taste quite as good as if you bake the potato or the sweet potato, but it gets made quickly. And I've done that before, and that's easy. And then if you really want to be fancy, let's say sometimes I would make some potatoes. I'd cut them up, microwave them so they cook through. Then I'll throw them in the pan with my eggs I make. And so they're getting a little bit of crispiness from the macadamia nut oil that's at the bottom of the egg pan, and then and they're all mixed in with the eggs, and I have eggs and potatoes. So sometimes I do that. But usually if I'm making eggs, I do it with grits. I'm into grits, and I put the eggs directly into the grits. I have a video I've done on that, and I put a little extra water in there. I put a couple packets of Splendor in there. If I'm not, looking to restrict carbs, I'll throw a few raisins in there, and I'll just put all that right into the microwave it for 3.5 minutes, and I got the grits absorb the eggs, and it's absolutely delicious. But those are my 3 main primary, carb meals that I eat at home. Now, if I'm out to eat, then I order. There's no holds barred. I can order whatever I want. But I like to do things, once again, that's quick to make and quick to clean up. And the rice, the minute rice is where it's at. If I was a bodybuilder, trying to economize how much I spend every week. And I was just having this conversation with a client of mine. He's like, I can't do the contest prep. I just don't have the money for the food. I said, money for food? I said, you can buy tuna packets at the supermarket for under $1 a pack. Okay. And that's a meal. With minute rice, and the minute rice, you don't have to buy the little boil bags. You could buy a whole box, like at Sam's Club or something like that. I mean, it'll last you, a month. That's how big the box is. And, it's cheap. Rice and then get a bottle or 2 of mac oil, or, if you don't want to buy my mac oil, you want to buy extra virgin olive oil, whatever the case may be. You got fat, you got protein, you got carbs at a very reduced rate. You can eat that 14 times a day if you want. Get a couple of cartons of eggs, real cheap. Now that eggs are affordable because Trump's in office, I brought the eggs down, and you're good to go. That's the cheapest way you don't even need to do protein shakes or anything. You can just do eggs, tuna, and rice. I mean, I lived on that for the first, 5 years of my bodybuilding career because I had no money. So don't make excuses. It can be done. You have to just sit down and budget your money and figure out what the best bang for your buck is.
Interesting one here. Can you explain resetting metabolism, insulin resistance, and how much it would take to really tear down the metabolism after dieting for over a year, and then cheat meals like cake every day for like a month straight while still eating original clean meals too?
I don't know what the question is. Do you?
So, I guess let's answer the first part of it, and that is, I guess, explaining resetting metabolism, insulin resistance, and I guess how long it would take to tear down metabolism after dieting for over a year.
when you've been dieting for over a year, your body is dying to grow. So if you feed it really good food and you can feed it a lot of food and you continue to train, you will have one of the best rebounds off of that diet of all time. The reason why people get fat after they do an extended diet is not because they've suppressed their metabolism, because as soon as you start eating, you're boosting your metabolism. That solves that problem. And it's not because they're insulin resistant. If anything, they're more insulin sensitive when they're eating low carbs. The problem is that when they go off the diet, they eat like pigs. Like, I'm pulling another Trump. Piggy, shut up, piggy. Now, they eat like pigs. And then what they do, is they don't go to the gym because they feel like they are owed a vacation. So they don't work out and they eat the wrong foods. They stop eating the 6 small meals a day and they go to 3 horrible, unhealthy, high fat, high carb, high sugar meals. And then they wonder why they look like shit. They're like, man, my insulin resistance is off. And this is wrong. And I suppressed my metabolism from the diet. No, it's because you changed what you were doing. Continue doing what you're doing. I have guys come off contest diets and women come to me. We put them on a lot of food. I give them, they are training still. And we go right back to the gym. And you know what? They look amazing. They get a great rebound. They put a ton of muscle on. If they're getting a little too, overweight or whatever, they're growing too fast or maybe getting a little, accumulating some body fat, I might give them a little cardio or cut back some carbs. But by and far, most people do have an amazing rebound off the show. And so, I think the problem is for people is that they're thinking of this one disaster case they saw in the gym, and it's usually a girl. And I'm not trying to say women have a little less control after diet. They tend to go overboard. Men can eat a lot more food and not get fat. Women, they start eating a dessert every day. They're gonna put on some poundage, and so that is what happens. And it's usually because they've in their mind or someone has told them they deserve to take a month off from the gym. That's not the smart move. You take a couple days off, you go right back to the gym into training again. And you know what? You're going to have such a great rebound of building muscle and staying lean because you're going to be sweating like a pig because your metabolism is going to be through the roof. And that's what you want.
Question about libido. I'm running 375 test, 300 EQ, and 100 tren a week with 2 mg of reta. All of a sudden, one day I've lost my libido. It doesn't feel like high estrogen, but I wouldn't know until I run bloods. No erection issues, just no drive. Could it be the reta? I've never had this problem before. Not long ago, it was very high.
It's interesting. I just mentioned this earlier, Sid, right? Everyone's on RETATRUTIDE now. Even people who don't need it are on it. They think, well, I might as well just take it for good measure. If you're in an off-season scenario, and you're not a woman that gets super fat, you shouldn't be taking RETATRUTIDE or any GLP-1 agonist off-season. Because number one, it slows the absorption of food through your intestinal tract. It blunts your appetite and it makes you constipated. That's not the best way to grow. It's the worst way to grow. You want the food going through you fast. You want to absorb it. You want to be hungry. You want to be able to eat. It's not smart to be on that, but that's not what's killing your libido. I can promise you that. Now, some people are very, very sensitive to trenbolone. Trenbolone in a lot of people, because when I took trenbolone, it made my sex drive through the roof. But in a lot of other people, what it does is it raises prolactin levels. And once again, the person really said it right. I don't really know what's going on because I haven't got blood work done, but his prolactin levels may be high. That usually doesn't really mess with sex drive as much as it does erections, but because it doesn't make sense that you wouldn't have a sex drive. But what I've noticed, in the last, unfortunately, 10 years is that a lot of the gear is fake. So you think you're taking one thing and you're really not taking what you think you're taking. And invariably, in 90% of the cases, when I ask this person, or let's say a person contacts me with a question like this, and I say, have you tested your drugs with the Roy test kits that I sell at DavePalumbo.com? And they're like, I never got around to it. I meant to, and I didn't really, but the guy told me this is the best stuff. And Derek Lunsford, Mr. Olympia, uses it. It's look how great he looks. I said, listen, don't trust anyone. For $22 or whatever these kits are per tester, test your drugs. I mean, you're crazy. You're only taking, 2 or 3 different things. Test them all. at least if you know they're real, then you don't have to worry about that. You eliminate that as one of the potential, problems, because you might be taking real gear, but it might not be what you think it is. You're paying for trenbolone, you're paying for, this other high quality compound, and you're taking test propionate in every shot. And too much test propionate can certainly kill your sex drive because it makes you feel like you have the flu. You feel crappy. So he didn't really report that, but you don't even know if what you're taking is real. I would check that out first. And I would also get some blood work to see what those prolactin levels are looking like and the estrogen levels. If estrogen's too low, that could also be a problem. And a lot of times that kills sex drive.
We've heard about horse grade gear, now horse grade electrolytes. Do you think a human could use horse electrolytes like apple a day? I see it has all the same electrolytes that are in quote more expensive human electrolyte mixes.
Yeah.
Wondering if it's suitable for humans, something you'd recommend.
Right. I don't know the ingredient breakdown. I'm assuming the electrolytes are, correct. Assuming that the electrolytes are, pretty much comparable to ours. I'm sure it works just as well. I don't know how it's flavored. Horses have different, taste buds. They can drink stuff that has no taste. I've never tried the product, so I don't know how it tastes. I don't know if it even has sugar in it or if it doesn't have sugar in it. I can tell you for sure there's definitely no artificial sweeteners in it. No one would flavor a electrolyte drink for horses with an artificial sweetening system because they don't give a shit. So it might taste pretty nasty. Once again, I guess if you have access to it and you want to try it, I don't really think people, the truth is, if you're eating enough salt in your food, okay, meaning you're either salting your food with sea salt or using soy sauce, which most bodybuilders crave salt, because you're sweating a lot. If you're doing that and you're taking like a good quality multivitamin mineral, like V-Mineralize, by the way, just for a reminder, for all you guys who've been waiting, V-Mineralize, the new formula is out. It's available on our website. Is it on Amazon yet, Sid? I don't know if it went on there.
Let me check right now.
It's definitely available at speciesnutrition.com. It's got the added vitamin D3 up to 5,000 units now per serving. We have vitamin K2, which directs calcium away from the blood vessels into the bones and the muscles. And then we have a methylated B6, which is methylated folic acid, and we have methylated B12 in there. We always have the methylated B12, but now we have methylated folic acid in there as well. So it's the most comprehensive multivitamin on the market, and all the minerals that your body needs and electrolytes are in there already as well. So all you have to do is make sure you get enough salt in your diet, you take V-Mineralize, you drink enough fluid, and you're not going to have to worry about electrolytes. Likewise, a lot of people say, well, I'm cramping because I have too much calcium, I don't have enough magnesium, and the magnesium's in there already with chelated magnesium balanced with calcium. Any good quality multivitamin, multi-mineral, as V-Mineralize is, will have, number one, chelated minerals because they're the most absorbable, and number two, a balance between calcium and magnesium, which is super important because if you take too much of one, the other gets unbalanced, and if you take too much of the other, same thing. So we have it balanced already for you. There's no thinking involved. You don't need electrolytes. Does it mean that you can't sip a zero Gatorade Zero while you're training? No, you can still have that. That's fine. I just don't think you need to take extra electrolytes.
It is not on Amazon, but it is at speciesnutrition.com. What steroid compound made you feel the best and the worst? For example, did one compound just never agree with your physique and one that was just always on point?
Well, the worst was test propionate. I've said this before. Every time I take it or took it, I felt like I had the flu. It hurt. I left, wherever I shot it, it felt like someone hit me with a hammer. I don't know if I have an allergic sensitivity to the propionate ester, but I felt like crap. Now, if I took 2 Tylenol, it kind of took the pain away. But I was like, why am I torturing myself with this test propionate? Every time I take anything that has it, like Sustanon has a little propionate in it, I'd be sore after I took a shot of Sustanon. Test propionate directly, I used to have access to that, bottles of that, and I hated it because I was always in pain and felt like I had the flu. So I said, at some point, I just said, why do I need to take this? It's irrelevant. Testosterone's testosterone. So I just started taking cypionate and enanthate, and it worked wonderful. I had no pain anymore, and I eliminated. So that's the worst drug. The best drug I'd have to say would be probably trenbolone. Unfortunately, it has side effects. If you take too much of it, it'll raise your blood pressure. If you take too much of it, you can't sleep at night. You get very irritable on it, but your body looks amazing on it. There's no doubt about that. So there is a fine line between an effective dose versus taking too much. For me, 50 milligrams 3 times a week was perfect. It gave me all the benefits and it minimized the side effects. And I felt like my body looked the best on that. So yeah, I would have to say trenbolone.
Question about hair loss. I've never been prone to hair loss. I've been on test, small dose of Deca from my TRT clinic for the past 5 years. I just got prescribed some anavar from them at 25 mg for 60 days. And I know you say it's weak, but my question is, what are the chances that it'll affect my hairline, being that I've never had a problem? And if so, would testolyze help?
Anavar doesn't convert to DHT, so it's not going to have any negative drawback to your hairline. You're not going to lose any hair from anavar. It's very, very mild in that respect. If you are a hair nut, though, because people really love their hair, a testolyze is always a good, safe bet to take it prophylactically, because it will keep your DHT levels lower, because your body is still releasing natural testosterone. And if you're a high DHT converter, you theoretically could, over the long run, be causing your hairline to thin. They always say that you don't even notice you have lost any hair until you've already lost 50% of it. So when you start saying, I'm getting kind of thin, that means you've lost 50% of your hair already, which is not good. So if you are worried about it, if there is hair loss in your family, I would recommend that the testolyzed product of 3 pills twice a day, prophylactically, just so you don't have to deal with it later down the road.
Question from a 56-year-old martial artist. I've been on lower dose since 2022, 250 T. So I don't know if he means tren. No.
I mean testosterone.
Or test, my bad. 150 add-on cycling in periods with 125 as the lowest phase, but completely off since 6 weeks due to prostate surgery. After 4 weeks, approximately, it started. The, quote, sac and the testicles grew and are still bigger than before, and have been having a lot of pain down there. What is your experience with issues like this, and what is the normal duration for this? Thinking of going back on TRT ASAP, will the issues disappear?
Well, it's good that you have sensitivity back down there, and it's good that your production of sperm and testosterone has started up again, which is what you're feeling. And you probably, need a release back down there. And I don't know, after prostate surgery, probably the last thing you want to do is have sex with someone, because it's probably scary, because you don't know what's going on and if everything's healed in there. But when your testicles start producing testosterone and they start producing sperm, the sperm want to get out, it builds up. And so you're probably getting, a backup in there of prostate, fluid and sperm. And your body wants to release it, and that's why you're feeling pressure down there. But I guess when the doctor gives you the thumbs up, you can go and knock it out of the park again, and I think you'll be fine.
Question about something, a topic, phrase, word, whatever that's obviously followed you for really the duration of the last decade plus. If you could redo your bodybuilding career, what specific changes would you make to your protocol to prevent, quote, Palumboism, while maintaining that same legendary level of muscle mass?
Yeah. It's a hard question, because every physique is so different. And I think what made me such a great bodybuilder was the amount of mass I was able to put on to my body and the amount of food I was able to consume. And if I didn't consume that level of food, the amount of food that I had, that I probably would not have gotten to the point of all that mass and that I had on my body. So if I would answer the question by saying I would have reduced my food intake so that I didn't overblow my midsection and stretch it out so much, I might not have achieved the physique development that I needed. So I don't know. It's always hard to second guess yourself, after the fact. Did I make a mistake or did I not? I will say this one thing, and I've said this before. The one thing that I didn't do the first half of my bodybuilding career that would have probably also saved or helped my midsection was, no one did fiber back then. No, we didn't know about it. And so, yeah, we thought we were going to the bathroom a lot, because we were eating so much food. But if you think about how much food I was eating versus how many times a day I was going to the bathroom, it wasn't comparable. So there was obviously retention in the gut area, which was, forcing itself out, and stretching out that fascia that surrounds the gut. And so I think that's what, was the problem. Had I been doing like a product like Fiberlyze twice a day, my whole career, starting from day one, I might have had a better and my midsection might not have gotten, as bad as it did. So I have to believe that has something. We didn't know anything about gut health either, as far as probiotics and doing things that will help, gut health out. Obviously a good quality soluble fiber supplement like Fiberlyze that uses a high swell rate psyllium is a terrific food source. So you're actually feeding the gut bacteria as you're also creating the ability to detoxify all that waste out of your body. And in fortifying those gut bacteria and feeding them, they're going to grow and they're going to create a better barrier around the inside of your colon and small intestine. And they're not going to let pathogens pass through. And they're going to keep your production of neurotransmitters, which are predominantly made in the gut, believe it or not, and then they go to the brain. And so the whole cascade of positive effects from fiber could have changed my physique and might not have allowed it to get to the point that it did. Really, what kind of ruined my physique was not necessarily the gut, because I had gotten control of that at the end when I started using all the fiber, was that I had really bad shoulders too. And I don't think there's anything that I could have done to fix that. I think that's a genetic weakness in my body. And so, once again, we do the best we can with what the tools we have are. And that's all you can do. I knew that I was never going to have the structure of a flex wheeler. So I had to put on massive amounts of muscle and use my ability to get in the best shape of anyone else around to exploit that. So a lot of mass, tremendous conditioning, and not worry about being the shapeliest guy on stage, because I'm not going to be able to compete with those guys. Kind of the Nick Walker scenario, although I think Nick was a better bodybuilder than I was, for sure. And, not worry about what people think about me, just make money, be popular, and be happy that I can make a living from the bodybuilding world, which is exactly what Nick is doing right now.
So you did mention fiber and obviously the importance of fiber that you've now realized. We'll just take this on before we wrap. If you could, after preaching years of the benefits of fiber, I guess at some point Arnold had said something to the effect of like, people are saying that fiber is the new protein for Americans, and this will prove once, the reality, whatever. I don't know. I don't know if Arnold actually said this, but this is what he's saying. So whatever, let's just say that assuming that's true, it's something that you've been saying for a very long time, that fiber, the importance of fiber. And I think people are now really awakening to that reality.
Yeah. You know what the problem is, I think, though? Most of the fiber that's being put into foods and drinks, they're putting in drinks now, is not a fiber that does anything positive in the body. It's fiber. It's not absorbable, but it has no health benefits. You need a source of soluble fiber that can be utilized by the gut bacteria, like I just mentioned previously, fermented by them. It needs to bulk your stool. It needs, which is going to make everything swell. It's going to help you eliminate waste more efficiently. It's going to bind up the LDL, bile salts or cholesterol, essentially the bad cholesterol in your body, and pull it out. It's going to make the colon work. So it's going to strengthen the colon and make the colonic walls and the small intestinal walls more muscular and more functional. And, once again, if you do this on a regular basis, you're going to see a general better health profile of your body, because your brain's going to think better, because you're going to have more serotonin being produced in the gut, which is where, like I said, I think 75% of it gets produced in the gut, they're saying, by all the cells that exist there that, make it. So the key is keeping the gut bacteria healthy, but not every fiber does that. They're all not created equal. It's like saying, well, I take soy protein, so I'm going to be huge, because I take 500 grams of soy protein a day. Well, we know soy protein sucks and it doesn't do anything, and it's devoid of branched chain amino acids. So just because you're ingesting protein doesn't mean your body's going to, respond better. It's the kind of protein you take, and just like it's the kind of fiber you use. A lot of people have used Metamucil. It does contain psyllium, but the psyllium they use is inferior to what I use because they use a low swell rate psyllium because it's cheaper. And that's why people don't get the results that they get when they take Fiberlyze. So, I always say you get what you pay for. I'd rather sell you a Ferrari, a Mercedes, or a Lamborghini. But if you want to buy a Honda and think it's the same thing, then that's up to you. But when it comes to your body, you should not ever skimp on cost, because without your health, you got nothing. And in bodybuilding, especially now that everyone is on a GLP-1 agonist like RETATRUTIDE, you can't poop on that stuff because it slows the transit of food through your colon and your small intestine. And when you slow the transit, your body has more time to extract fluid out of it, especially in the colon. And that's what happens is you get the fecal matter becomes very solid and it starts getting impacted and it has trouble exiting the body. Once you get constipated and impacted like that, it's hard to undo that. And a lot of times you have to go into the hospital and they have to do something about it. So if you're going to take a GLP-1 agonist, you better get on Fiberlyze twice a day. You should do it anyway, but you should especially do it if you're taking any of these GLP-1 agonists. It almost should be a requirement that they write on the script, must take a high quality fiber supplement, because I'm telling you, it's going to be a disaster. You're going to start seeing more and more people with impacted colons and going to the emergency room as more and more people start using these fiber supplements. These GLP-1 agonists.
And that's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. A reminder, tomorrow, the interview with two-time Mr. Olympia Derek Lunsford drops on the channel. If you haven't already done so, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss that, this show, or any segments that we have coming up. And, of course, all of our content next week leading into the Arnold Classic. And then, of course, in Columbus, Ohio with the 2026 Arnold Classic. For Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.